Serious Survivor here. This is part of the Apocalypse Tip series, and here we're going to look at suggestions or tips that can assist someone who's bugging in an apartment complex or a similar type of environment. Now, there are many different types of apartment complexes, so there are several different environments that this could apply to and some that it will not apply to. One of the things that we're going to have to take into consideration living in an apartment complex or structure or any type of environment that puts us in a high population density is the fact that there are going to be people around. So one of the best preventative measures we can take is to get to know the people that are around us. And this should obviously be done before an event occurs. You're going to want to know your neighbors, know the people that frequent your neighborhood, and know the type of person that that person is. After a few conversations with a person, you might have the idea if this is a person that you could trust or a person that you couldn't trust, if this is a person that would attempt to take what you have, or if this is a person that could work with you and help assist in maybe rebuilding or at least surviving for a while. Who knows, through getting to know your neighbors, you might even find some valuable allies that would be beneficial in any type of situation such as this. So get to know the people around you. This will pay off in the end to help you know the ones that you feel like you should avoid and the ones that you could possibly band with to form a group for a stronger or better chance of survival. Next, when answering your door in a type of environment like this, if you're in your apartment and you can't see out and there comes a knock at the door, one of the things you want to be aware of is the person on the other side of that door may not have good intentions. So this is going to be something you definitely want to keep in mind. So remember, don't use your peephole. If you're looking at your peephole, then that person knows when he hears you walk up to that door that if you pause for a moment as you walk through the door, then he knows you're looking through the peephole at that moment. He may have it covered with his finger or possibly with the barrel of a gun. So avoid looking through the peephole and don't stand directly in front of your door when someone knocks on your door. If they do, if you have room, stand against the wall next to the door, or if you don't have room, if your doorway leads into like a hallway type of setting, then stand with your back against the wall and don't put your entire wide body mass in front of the door. It gives you a much smaller target to shoot at, and make the person verbally answer you, telling you who they are. That's if you answer at all. Depending on the type of environment, remember, if you answer the door, they're going to know you're there. But if you don't answer, they may attempt to gain entry anyway. Water and food. This is a subject we all know that we have to have a long-term food supply if we're going to bug in our location, or we have to have the means and the ability to go out and obtain this food. Water is the same thing. When an event occurs, if you have not immediately lost power and lost water pressure, go ahead and fill up all of your tanks, bathtubs, sinks, jugs, etc. Fill them all up with water. Get as much as you can. In a long-term event, you can assume the water is going to go out at some point in time, so you want to save as much as you can. Which brings us to another subject, and that's the purification of your water, making sure that it's safe to drink. Water does have a tendency to stagnate after a while, and if it's not properly treated at the waste treatment plants, say if the power's been out for a while and civil services are down, but you still have some water pressure, then it may not be treated properly and it could be disease-ridden and extremely dangerous to drink. So having the ability to purify this water is of extreme importance. Building a fire and boiling water, that's one good way of purifying water, but if you're bugging in, one of the things you need to take into consideration is the planning beforehand. You want to keep at least 1 gallon of water per person per day, so that can add up to a lot. Look into the water purification tablets, things such as bleach, and learn the proper ratios to mix bleach with water to properly purify, such as water filters, water purifiers, small manual devices that don't require power or anything such as that, but things you can use to purify the water, because you don't want to have to boil everything you drink if you don't have to. So if you have water purification tablets, and I say those because they're relatively inexpensive and they're very small, you could store thousands in just a few bottles. Now, when it comes to food, storing a long-term food supply is definitely something that you want to do if financially possible. And this can get expensive, but some things about food is people tend to get the kind of food that they say, well, this is going to taste good, you know. But if you're in an apocalyptic scenario and you don't want people to know that you're in that apartment cooking, you don't really want to be cooking chili and beans that have this great odor that's just permeating the entire floor of your apartment building. You want something bland, preferably just something that can add water to and eat, and there are a lot of meals like that on the market, or something that if you do have to cook, it doesn't give off much of an odor. This is extremely important because a hungry person can smell food a mile away. And if you have the odor of a delicious home-cooked meal coming out of your apartment, you're gonna have company at this point. Food, get bland food. I know it's not gonna taste the best in the world, but you're just trying to survive here. And eventually, if things settle down, you'll be able to get a good meal at some point in time. Hopefully, you can store food that doesn't require much preparation, because the more preparation it requires is the more work it requires, which also means the more sound I'm gonna make and the longer it's gonna take to prepare it. So simple is better in most situations. Even though you're bugging in, you still want to have a bug out plan and a destination. If you don't have a bug out plan, then you've got nowhere to go when someone does invade your apartment that you can't fight off, because that time may very well come, especially if you don't have a group. So have a bug out plan, a realistic bug out plan. Have a plan that you can actually complete. Have a plan that everyone in your group can make the journey. So this is just as important as bugging in as having a plan to escape if necessary. And think of your bug out plan as your escape plan or your escape route. And this is something you have to prepare beforehand to have the best chance at. Next, maintain the physical appearance of those around you. Now, in a SHTF without rule of law scenario, I wouldn't expect to see people walking around clean shaven, pressed shirts, clean pants, perfectly white shoes. I would expect to see people with longer hair, unshaven, dirty, maybe smelly a little bit, dirty clothes, dirty shoes, ripped up shoes, things such as that. The people that are well dressed, the people that are not losing weight, these are going to stand out like a sore thumb in this type of environment. So if you have to leave your bug in place, and there's a very good possibility that you will, because at some point in time you're going to run out of food, or you're going to run out of water, or you're going to run out of some type of supplies, or someone gets injured and you may need medicine. Whatever you may need, there's going to come a point when you need to leave your location just for a small amount of time. And I recommend having ahead of time one outfit for this: earth tone, bland colored clothing, something that doesn't stand out, but something with a lot of pockets, like an earth tone colored cargo pants. Nothing fancy, nothing bright colored, nothing with a logo at all on it, just something extremely plain and dirty looking. Wear this outfit every time you go out, and this way you tend to blend in more with your surroundings. When you leave, carry nothing but a scavenging kit with you. Always take the shortest route to where you're going, and don't take chances. If there are people in your apartment that are counting on you to be back, then it's much better. Play it safe, I should say. And if you do have to leave, carry as little as you can leaving your area, and what you do carry, attempt to conceal it the best you can and keep a low profile. And this is called the gray man technique. It's a technique that you should be extremely familiar with, and it's going to be different for every individual. But if you're in an urban environment and a highly populated area, you need to know how to keep a low profile and maintain situational awareness at all times. Next, if you board up your windows, make sure that you board up your windows on the inside. By boarding up your windows on the inside, you're doing a few things. First, it's less noticeable from the road. Second, if my windows are boarded up on the inside, then that gives me the ability to adjust the boarding, to maybe open it from time to time, look out the windows, cut slots that I can open and close, and keep an eye, fire my weapon out the window if necessary. So it gives me the advantage of being able to control how and when I move this barrier in front of each window. Because by placing them on the outside, then I'm also giving whoever would be attempting to enter my area, I'm giving them the ability to remove it very easy. And plus, anytime I need to adjust them or make any modifications to the boarding on my windows, if they're on the outside, that means I have to go to the outside to make any necessary changes, which once again exposes me to other people possibly. If you leave your area, have what we call an urban survival or urban scavenging kit. Now this is a kit, got a video on the channel coming out very soon about an urban scavenging kit, and this is a kit designed specifically to help gain entry to some places that would be difficult to gain entry to, and to help you scavenging the proper supplies that will assist you in survival. In an urban environment, you'll have the advantage of many structures, many buildings, many businesses, police stations, hospitals, drugstores. You'll have the advantage of everything being very close to you or within a reasonable distance. And if you have the ability to gain entry to a lot of these places, then you'll be able to gain access to many of the supplies that will make your life a lot easier. Have a form of defense. You have to have some form of defending yourself. Now, I realize that for me, where I live, it's pretty easy to acquire and keep possession of firearms. But some parts of the country, and it seems that some of the heavier populated, more densely populated areas are the ones that have these restrictive laws on firearms. A lot of places don't even allow you to own a firearm without a special permit. And this makes it extremely difficult for an individual to actually obtain a firearm for self-defense sometimes. And I realize that that can be a contributing factor, and that can be a barrier, if you will, to prevent someone from having the necessary items to defend themselves and their family. But if the ability to own a firearm is not there, then we need to look at archaic or handheld weapons. And we're talking about bladed weapons, swords. Look at a compound bow. And if you can't own a firearm, you can own a muzzleloader or black powder gun, most likely. And a 6-shooter black powder gun, 50 caliber, 44 caliber is a pretty handy device, and it's a pretty accurate device. The new one's on the market for under 50 yards, more like 20 yards for the pistols. But it'll do the job if necessary, and this is a bow and arrow, a compound bow or a crossbow, extremely effective weapons for hunting and for self-defense. These are extremely effective. Your rate of fire with a crossbow or a bow is not going to be that of a pistol or a rifle, but still, this item will protect you, and it will give you the means to hunt larger game if that is an option for you. Maintain the external appearance of your apartment or your home if able to. I mean, sometimes some apartments are on the 5th, 6th floor of an apartment building or something like that, and you don't have a yard, you don't really have an outdoors area. But for those that do, that live in some type of complex, they have a front yard or a backyard. Trash it out. I know that sounds terrible, but if you're several days into the apocalypse and it becomes evident that nothing is going to change, that the only life you're going to have is the life that you make from here on out, then make your yard look like it's already been vandalized, make your house look like it's already been vandalized, and you will reduce the chances of someone wanting to vandalize it again. It's the good-looking houses, the houses that no one's broken into, that vandals are going to try to gain access to most likely. So if you make yours unappealing, it will probably be passed over for something that is more appealing. And one thing that's probably not discussed enough is that if you are bugging in an apartment building, one in which you are confined to a structure, what about using the bathroom? Now, we know that we can urinate into a bucket or a container and get rid of that, but what about the other? That's going to be a little more difficult. When the water stops flowing and the toilets stop flushing, then if you don't have an area that you can go out to and do your business in, then it's going to make life extremely difficult bugging in an apartment. Keep in mind the health risk. Not only will it produce a stench that would be just completely unbearable, but it's going to produce disease, bacteria, and it's just going to be disgusting if you don't have an area to go in. So this is something we need to plan ahead on. It's going to be a major factor, because if you're on the 5th floor of an apartment building, do you go all the way down the stairs, go outside, try to find an alley somewhere? In an apartment complex or an apartment structure in which you have a front or backyard, then you can go out and you can do your business or do it in a container and then bury it. But if you're not in an area like that, you're going to have to get rid of it somewhere. And this can pose not just a problem, but a threat to yourself and to others. People aren't going to take kindly to this kind of thing being dumped out the window onto the sidewalk in front of their apartment. So this could be a very, very difficult situation for those living in a very crowded apartment structure and you don't have a yard and you're in the middle of the town, there's nothing but streets and alleys nearby. This is something you need to take into consideration when you're making your preparations to either bug in or bug out. Bugging in an apartment complex or an apartment building or structure can be a difficult task, but it can be accomplished. Situational awareness is one of the key things that you must have and master, and that's understanding and knowing what's going on around you. And not just understanding and knowing what's going on around you, but accurately predicting, if you will, what would occur should you take certain actions or not take certain actions. Situational awareness will develop as time goes by. You have to be aware of everything around you, and having other people on your side will give you a definite advantage. That's where knowing your neighbors beforehand can pay off. Now, it could be detrimental, that's true, but it can pay off. And one of the key rules, too, is secrecy. And what I mean is if you are stockpiling food in your apartment and there are 1,000 people in your apartment building, don't let anyone know, any one of them at all know that you are stockpiling food or water. Maybe let it be known that you wish you could, or that you would like to, or that you would like to start a group for those that you trust, but don't let them know exactly what you have, because no matter who they are, when they get hungry, their family gets hungry, they're going to come to you and they're going to want your food, and they're not going to take no for an answer. I don't think many people would. So this is going to be an extremely difficult situation for a lot of people. Well, that's it for now. Make sure to check out the channel for several more videos in the Apocalypse Tips series. And we're going to have a lot more coming out, making more videos now. Make sure to subscribe and like the video to help out the channel. And if you'd like to see more from the channel, leave a comment. Talk about some of the videos you'd like to see. Give me some subjects to talk about, and I'll see how many videos I can come out with. I hope the information was helpful. I hope you found it informative. And for now, Serious Survivor, out.